All right, so the goal of this video is to we're going to create a custom component that is going to be our header here. So we're going to create a component that will have this styling, and we will be able to send in whatever string we want to display in our custom component. So this is what we will be striving to achieve by the end of this video. All right, so to get started from where I left off then, I've closed out all the windows, and I also did a git commit because I thought this was a good place to sort of lock my code in time. So I've already done it, but this is the command I used to make that happen. Remember, I don't know if you know this, but you can commit and add at the same time. So normally it's git add asterisk, but in this case I did git commit -am space and then my message, so you can do both at the same time. I've already done it, so I'm not going to run this again. There's nothing to commit, but I did do an initial commit, and now I'm ready to create my first component. So that's where we're going to go next. All right, so I can come in here if I wanted to and edit the Hello World view, but I really want to just start from scratch because that's always a good place to get going, just to build up some muscle memory. So I made it go away. But also, since I made it go away, I need to not import it here. I'm just going to comment it out so I have that for future reference, and I'm also going to comment it out here so I remember to, if I create new components, I have to add them back in to my app view. So let's see how that comes together. All right, so I'm going to create a new file, and we're going to call this, we're going to create the header.view. So we're going to call it with the Vue extension. And I'm going to call this component view. I'm sorry, header. And so a component is comprised of a template. So let's just kind of get things skeleton wired up. So let's see if I can type template. And a template has to return a single element. So I'm just going to make a div and div. And a component should have a script tag. So script, I think, let me just show this script. If you would like, I just hit script and tab. There is an extension called Vueter if you haven't found it already. Let me see if I can find it for you here. Vueter, V-U, I think that's what I have installed here. Vueter, there we go. V-E-T-U-R. So if you want to install this extension, it helps you with some shortcuts. So I would recommend you do that if you want to follow along with what I did, because that was super slick. All I had to do was I had to start the word script, and it saw that, are you trying to do this? Yes, I'm trying to do that. So I just hit tab. So it already created my export default and my object, so I'm good to go with my script. I need to give it a name, and I'm going to call this header. And I'm going to create a style sheet, which is scoped. I think that I have this saved in, I do. So I don't have to type this all out. So I have it saved, and scoped means that this is only available to, this style sheet is only available to this template, to this component. So that's a good starting point. Now I'll put these side by side so I can see all of my work together, because to me that's easier to understand or see. So I need to change some things around. I also have this hello world here, so that's no longer valid because we don't have we're not importing hello world anymore. So I'm going to uncomment this out and recognize that I am now importing in header instead. So I'm going to make sure I import in header from components, and then we call that header. And so by importing it, now it will be available to me here. Let's see what we've got. Well, I don't need this image. And now I need to have header. I'm going to put in a header tag here. And so my template now should, because my template got exported, this template, which has nothing in it, is going to show up here. Let me put something in it just so I know it's working. H1. This is my header. And then we'll end that H1. There we go. So let's just verify what we've done. We've created a template. The template's returning a single element, and in that single root element, and in that element we have an H1 tag. I'm exporting this template so it's available to whoever wants to utilize it. and I've given it a name of header, which is the name that ultimately whoever imports it can use that tag to render it. And the only thing left to do is remember that main.js, our main.js file is importing our app component. So since it's importing it, we also have to make sure that it receives the header component. So we need to put that in our export of our app. So back up on the chain, which was main, which rhymes unintentionally. So let me put these side by side just to remember how that works. So app then is importing, the main.js is importing app. So app is exporting this template, in which case it's utilizing a component. So it has to export that component. It imported the component, which is why it's allowed to use this tag here. Whew, that's a lot. So if I've done it correctly, So if I've done it correctly, I think we're going to change some things here in the style. But let's go ahead and start the server. npm run server. So I can't remember what the command is, so I'll go into my package.json file. Just to remember, it's npm run, and it's not server, it's npm run serve. So that's what I need to do. And I'm going to put this on pause while it loads. All right, so let's see what happens. So it did load. It's difficult for me to see all of this together. Let me see if I can put these. I don't have enough real estate on these videos, so I'll do the best I can here. Oh, definitely don't need this anymore. All right, so let's look at what we've done here. So I do have my header. That part seems to be working. I'm not going to keep main up anymore. We get the point there. Certainly don't need JSON, any package JSON. Put these two side by side. So it looks like we are definitely getting our header. If I can change this, maybe I'll just put heading just to make sure this is working. Oh, maybe I'll spell heading correctly. And it should save. And then yes, okay, that's working. I'm not getting this styling that I was hoping for. That's because I have a style of class, but I didn't give any class to my template. So I better do that. Class equals, and then oops is always a good word in programming, is it not? Header. So now I definitely have that heading. Let's see, but I really want it brushed up against the top, and I don't want all of this on the side. So if I look at my inspect element and I see what is my problem here, why do I have so much space up there? Well, let's see, I'm going to click on my head tag. It doesn't have any padding or margins, so that seems okay. If I click on body, looks like body has 8 margin. So if I set these to 0, what would I be looking at? So 0. So it looks like there's some browser defaults that are clicking in. So that's one way to get rid of that. So the idea here is kind of a refresher on how to utilize that to get your styling done. But I think what I'm going to do in the first place is I don't need the styling that came with the initial build. I'm going to build my own. So I'm going to do an asterisk. I'm going to do a default, set everything to 0. I'm setting all my paddings to 0 so I can manipulate them myself. And once I've done that, now I've got a nice heading that's flushed up against the sides, really what I was going for there. And so the last piece of this particular puzzle that I want to just get practice with is the idea of props. For example, I may not want heading all the time. I might want to use heading on different pages and not want the word heading. And so that's where props comes into play. So props is a way for us to give our parent, whoever is importing our component, our parent can send data to our child, in this case to our H1. And the way that our parent sends the data will be here through an attribute that we create. We'll call this attribute, you're actually creating the attribute here in the header, but I'm kind of going backwards and forwards here. So I guess I should just do it here. So when I created this component, I'm saying if you wish to send me some data, I'm going to create that ability with an array called props. And in this props, if you want to send me some data, I want it to be called, I'm going to create a custom attribute, and we'll call it the title. And so whatever you give me as an attribute of the title, so I'll just write that here so we can see that happening, equals whatever the parent gives me as a attribute called the title. I will allow you to send me data through that attribute, and I'll put that data in here instead of the word heading. So I have way too many of those. Still way too many of those. Okay. And so I can put the title, therefore, in the H1, which therefore, I didn't put anything in the title, so let's say Vue to do. That's good enough. Okay. And so what you can see then is we have now, through props, given our parent, whoever is importing this object, I'm giving you this attribute called the title. So an attribute is not unlike something we've done in the past, right? You might be doing src as an attribute, or href, or something along those alts. So all of those are attributes, but we're really creating a custom attribute. We're calling it props, and we're saying if you want to use this as an attribute to send me data, I will put that attribute in between my H1 tags when you import it. So whoever imports this component now via this attribute can send a string of whatever they want, which is now showing up in our header. So at this point, we have successfully created a custom header, a custom component, and imported it into our app view, and which is a component in itself. And then we made sure that whoever imported our app also imported the header, because the header was being utilized in this component. So hopefully just by hearing this over and over again, we'll see how all of these pieces fit together. So at this point, I would commit your changes, and we will handle the next step in the next video.